Hey everybody, what's happening around here? I'm Tommy and you're on the lifeboat. What's happening? So, what a day. All right, people, let's take a trip down memory lane before we get this thing rolling today. There's a lot of you here who probably met me for the first time a year ago today. Some of you met me before that when I went on Aaron Smith Levin, growing up in Scientology. I did some stuff on the Danny Masterson trial. I stopped talking about Danny, and I said I wasn't doing any more videos about him. I'm not bringing up his name, but he is a part of this story for sure. And we're also on the 1-year anniversary. A year ago today, I was with both Aaron and my friend Alan Ballantyne was with me as well. And we were out in LA for the sentencing of Danny Masterson. That was a year ago today. Ironic, really, that here we are a year later, and once again, the cult is getting dragged into the media. This time, unfortunately, there's a group of people out there that don't understand much about this cult. On the bright side, this is going to bring awareness to a lot of people that just don't realize how viciously rotten the cult of Scientology is. This video isn't going to be a particularly long one, people, and I'm not going to be doing much of a roll call. I do want to say hi to all of you. Maybe we'll get to it a little bit later on. There was an apology letter. We're not going to call it that. A statement was put out today by Emily. I'm not even going to read this chunk of crap. I actually took some screenshots of it and I intended to read it. And it's an utter waste of time. It's not an apology. So if anybody is out there and hasn't gone through this before, right? Maybe you have nothing to do with any kind of a job where if you screw up, more than one person hears about it. But if you do anything in social media or you do anything, I've had to come and do, I don't know how many shows where I messed up and I said something that offended somebody, or I did some stuff I shouldn't have done. It happens. Here's how it works. You come out and you say, I'm sorry. It's a good way to start an apology. Right? I'm sorry. Here's why I'm sorry. Break it out. Put a lot of time into it. Here's why I'm sorry. Here's the person I feel bad about. Right? This is who I injured. You acknowledge, right, the fact that you're at fault. Who got injured, and then show maybe that you actually look like you might feel bad. It goes a hell of a long way. It really does. That apology didn't mention Danny Masterson, right? It also BS. Several years ago, ironic, on the day of his sentencing, the 1-year anniversary. Obviously, this wasn't several years ago, right? It had to be a lot less than that. And you know what's ironic too? So I wasn't out there for all of the first trial. I wasn't out there for the second trial. I went out there for the sentencing, and that was my first exposure to this circus show that was the trial. And oddly enough, when we got into the court building, the first story we heard was about this girl. The very first story I heard was about Emily and her little entourage. And they brought up Dead Sarah, I think is the name of the band. I didn't know this band. I'd never heard of them. I'm tragically unhip, right? And I would have been tragically unhip if I didn't disappear for a decade, right? Or 13 years. I still would have been tragically unhip, but I disappeared for a period of time, went to prison. So I missed a lot of this stuff. I also missed some great bands out there as well. But yeah, the day of that sentencing, all they could talk about was they were happy that we were out there. They were happy that maybe there'd be a couple of more bodies because these people show up to do just this. This had been a recurring theme. And they were getting in the faces of the Jane Does. These are the people that this guy assaulted. We're not talking about supporting somebody. Hell, look, here's the deal. If you have a friend who screws up massively, right, you might stand by that friend, especially until you hear a guilty verdict, right? You probably would ride with a homeboy, especially if you really believed in them. You may stick around, but you wouldn't heckle, right? The people who were the alleged victims. You wouldn't try to keep them in the elevator so that they couldn't get out. Security wouldn't have to be called. The police wouldn't have to be called over to intervene. You understand that this is no longer supporting a friend. This is being a terrorist. Keep it real. That's not support. It's absolute horse crap. Kind of like the apology. She didn't mention Danny Masterson, right? She didn't mention any victim, right? She just said, if I do not, right? I don't condone sexual assault. Like the vast majority of the planet that does. I mean, it literally was the dumbest statement that anyone has ever put out, but it was reminiscent of the last time we heard one of these dumb statements. And as amazing as this is going to sound, I think she did a better job than Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. Just because they looked so pissed off through the entire thing that they had to be there doing it. You could put that on mute and still be angry. Honestly, you don't even have to listen to what they say. The look on their face was, oh man, it's like detention. You know, like they were having to do a hostage letter. That's exactly what it looked like. There was somebody off screen doing this one. Read it, read it. But at least they got in front of the camera, right? And I think they both probably had it in the back of their mind that they were going to disappear for a little while. Let's take a couple of years off. We'll resign from the boards. We'll get rid of all, and then we'll just kind of disappear and lay low for a little while. Well, Emily doesn't have that choice, does she? There's not going to be any laying low for Emily. In fact, Emily's going to have to go balls to the wall starting immediately because she's now the lead singer, or in theory, she's now the lead singer of Linkin Park. Now, I got hate mail out the wazoo from Scientologists or bots or whatever. But the supporters of this person that say, you know, you don't even know if these stories are, oh, I know the stories from the courthouse. No, those came from the Jane Does. I'm not at all, I have absolutely no doubt the veracity of those, especially since I didn't know who the hell you were when they were telling the story, right? I didn't know who this Emily chick was when the story was being told. I'd never heard of her. And it didn't really mean anything. It was just like, oh, you happen, because everybody in the second gens all know one another. So the story was, and of the people who were here, who was there? Well, it was this person, that person, and they all went, ooh, she's the lead singer of that band that were, if I were hip, I would have heard of them, right? I think the biggest takeaway, if I wanted to take the time to respond to every jackwagon that sent me a stupid email, about religious freedom and all that jazz. This isn't a religion. This isn't a religion. This is a money-making cult that enslaves people. You sign a billion-year contract and you go to work for free for 100 hours a week. You know what? Just because someone's willing to sign that document doesn't mean that the fact that they signed that isn't abuse. I mean, how do you, seriously, it's indentured servitude. It's remarkable. And the fact that kids end up in that, and don't say they don't, right? Don't say they don't. If everybody in the planet, wants to argue this point, any doubt my girlfriend was raised in Scientology? Is there any doubt that all of the dictates of that crazy friggin' cult trashed my girlfriend's childhood? It's pretty friggin' obvious. And a lot of other second gen. If you want to join a cult, I think that's great. You should be able to worship or believe or do whatever you want to do in life. You just shouldn't be able to drag your kids into it. Shouldn't be able to breed. I'm sorry, but that's a terrifying thing. So here's the big beef. If I could talk to these idiots, the big beef is this. This band, right? As you start to read, Calhoun has been doing this one. Oh, Dad, you got to hear this song. Read the lyrics to this. You got to hear this song. Read the lyrics to this. And as I'm going through this is a band that really obviously spent a lot of their effort and time writing songs about mental health, writing songs about people really struggling, right? This was something they were very aware of and very vocal about, not just on the stage, but outside, being advocates for victims of SA. And Chad Bennington was. To take in someone who's part of a cult that says there is no such thing as mental health, right? Those people are witch doctors. The doctors who treat people for mental health, they're the most evil people on the planet. You realize that's the doctrine of this cult. They don't believe in mental health. To let this person represent someone who took their own life because they lost their battle with mental health is the most abhorrent thing I've ever heard. And I don't care about the music. It means nothing to me. For all of you that hate me because of how great the band, I don't care. It makes no sense. What it is, if you pick somebody from my generation, if somebody from the Grateful Dead passed away and you got somebody that was kind of a mosh pit, thrash their head kind of person, you'd be like, well, that doesn't really line up, right? Those don't seem to make a whole lot of sense. This is the worst example of that I've ever seen, right? Worst example of that I've ever seen. And I feel sorry for this girl, whether you believe that or not. And the more I start to look at this, the more I feel viciously sorry for her. I don't believe for a second she wrote that apology. I don't. It was so crafted to not say a word. If you read it, you got to read it like 4 or 5 times. It says nothing. It says nothing. Hey, a couple of years ago, I got invited to go support this dude that I'm kind of a friend with, or blah, blah. I went down there once, didn't really work out. I knew it wasn't the right thing. So, but since we're bringing it up, I should probably mention that, hey, I don't condone that kind of action. Well played. I mean, for real, she should run for office. It was like this long, and she said nothing. I'll tell you who had a hell of a response. And I suppose I could read it on here. Chrissy Bixler, who is, by the way, I talked about the Jane Does on the show a bunch of different times. I can't imagine. I honestly can't. I'm not saying this as a sentence. I can't imagine the strength it takes to do what they did if they were atheists. For real. To go against someone that the whole world knows by name, right? And knows the character he played, and you're going to be hated and vilified because the person's an actor. And in our country, actors are royalty, and we treat them completely different, as if they're above everybody else. In fact, if they decide to have a political opinion, we stop and listen like maybe they're smarter than the next guy or the next gal, right? There's just deference paid to stars at an unbelievable level. So knowing the crap you're going to have to put up with, and how many times you're going to have to tell the story, and how many times you're going to have to deal with people accusing you of being a BSer, if you were not in the cult of Scientology to have the guts to do what the Jane Does did, is incredible. But when you understand the constrictions of that cult, no, they knew that this wasn't going to be just an average shitstorm because this guy was an actor. No. This was an organization that literally had a department, right, that is dedicated to creating shitstorms for situations just like this, who, oddly enough, the parents of this lead singer happened to work for OSA. Now, I said earlier, I feel bad for the girl to a point. The fact is that you got to be terrified of the cult. I get that. I really do. I get that. And I guess, I don't know, maybe soul is something that is just a different concept. I can't imagine standing on the stage, right? Knowing everything you know about that cult and then representing this guy's views, right? Because you're out there singing about stuff you don't believe in, right? For real. You don't think psychiatrists and psychologists, you think they're witch doctors, right? This is part of the doctrine. They're not doctors. They're friggin' evil. These are the people bringing down the world. Right? These are the most evil people on the planet. For her to take over this band, and you talk about tone deaf like a mother as far as the band goes. I kept getting emails from people that go, maybe they didn't just vet her. Maybe she just didn't get vetted. What? This isn't a garage band. You know what I mean? This isn't Tommy Two-Tone. This is a fairly unbelievably successful rock band, right? And it's pretty obvious how successful right now with all this happening, because people are losing their mother-loving mind. She is so diametrically opposed. Let me blow that. Here you go. She is so diametrically opposite of the person she replaced. I'm sickened that the band would allow this to take place. V. McWilliams, you and a lot of other people. This is something that those people who are both fans, who are also enlightened on what it means to be a member of the cult of Scientology in good standing. This does not sit well. And I think what's happening, if there's a shining spot to this, because the fact that the Jane Does have to go through this crap again, right? And then again, it gets back to the courage. These are not dumb women at all. These are strong and very intelligent women who knew that this was the rest of their life kind of crap. But they also knew that if they didn't do it, that this cat was going to keep doing this to other people. And it's an incredibly courageous group of people. To then come out to some of the protests. I got to stand with them at the protest one day, which was honestly the highlight of since I started doing anything on YouTube. It was probably the coolest thing that has ever happened. And a year ago today, I met them, and this is it's kind of poetic that that we're talking about this stuff today, because it's the only benefit to this, right, is that this is going to raise the dialogue again. Rolling Stone magazine, this is what's trending on Rolling Stone. The number one story there today is about her husband and the letter he had written to Emily via her old band. Called her out, viciously called her out. And they call each other out in a language that we have a pretty good understanding of. The rest of the world probably doesn't get it all. We kind of do, because we watch a lot of stuff from other content creators who are pretty into to taking down this cult as well. This has been tough for fans that don't get it, because honestly, to a lot of people, if you don't understand how bad this cult is, right, substitute the word Scientologist for a word like Catholic, right, Presbyterian, something like that. And I think that there are a lot of fans out there going, "What, man? What's up with these people?" Right? They're just crapping on her because she's a woman. I got a bunch of those mails, a bunch of emails. I'm just a misogynist. The reason I was going off yesterday about this is because I just hate women. And you could probably tell by looking at the so few of them in the live chat. Checks out, right? Like 9 guys that watch the Lifeboat. A predominantly female audience here. We're proud of that. I do want to say hello to some of you guys. I really do. I just didn't want to run this thing really long. Shannon Smith, good to see you. Anna, how are you? Kathy Ann, always a pleasure to have you. Hold on one second. Yeah, it's not just a religion, right? And this is a reality. I think this is bumming out a lot of people. Humble and kind, how are you? No problem. Hockey Town John, it's always an honor when you're here, my friend. I was just telling somebody yesterday, we were talking about you, and it was all bad. No, I'm kidding. It's Quibbs and I. You're a great dude, man. Tommy Bird, good to see you. Shannon Smith, how are you? Kristen Melinda, West Coast Fancy Nancy, Debbie P, what's going on? People, am I overreacting? What's the story, Tori? I like it. Leslie Giro, I like it. Cricket says, hey there, Tommy. I went to the most zen place in the world today, Cat Cafe. Yeah, I like to say, Goosebump, good to see you. I like to say that forget what Disney World says. Cat Cafe is the happiest place on earth. Any place where you go where there's 30 cats, like they're on every flat surface, forget it, man. I'm all in. Ivy's mama, good to see you. Glad you're here. Jamie Palmer, what's happening? Sarah Bowman, not overreacting, good. Okay, here's the deal. This isn't about a band. It's not. It's about the fact that this cult hides in plain sight. The beautiful thing about this, man, honestly, as much as everybody's really bent out of shape at Lincoln Park, and we probably should be, they're really doing us a favor. You get that, don't you? They're really doing us a favor. JD Delay. I talk about JD Delay on here often. He has a channel that if you haven't seen, you probably live under a rock, because he's got, I don't remember at last count, it's well over 1 million subscribers. He does some prison stuff, but he's not a guy that he concentrates on people turning their lives around. It's a very cool message. I consider myself a part of the family over there. Last night, he did a live feed that had more people in it. You know, I mean, when you got 1 million subscribers, it's huge, huge live feeds. And this was the subject. And it wasn't just a guy that was bent out of shape about a new lead singer. He was hammering home that this is a woman that was down there heckling the victims of Danny Masterson. Like, he did a absolutely bang up job tearing this up, seriously. And that's, this is the best possible case scenario, is that this starts getting into the mouths, right, of some big hitters. The more that there are people out there really talking about this, a lot of us really kind of live this, right? We have so many people in our lives that are ex-Scientologists. This is a very big thing for a lot of us. For those who are not a part of that, to start sort of highlighting these stories, that's millions of people that are going to start seeing this that may not have, right? We like to think that the big red button's the big red button. We're a very small little section of the big red button. Let's keep that real, right? Even the entire anti-Scientology community, which is a lot of people, it's broken up over a lot of channels, and anything we can do to jump the curb, anything we can do to get people outside of our community talking about how rotten this cult is, that's a beautiful thing. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. And a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are. Shine the lights. Exactly right. I'm too skinny. Yeah, you know what? I need some ho-hos. There's nothing wrong with ho-hos. I have, here's the funny thing. Boy, you've seen me a lot skinnier. I'm about 18 pounds over my lowest weight. When I was in the basement when I was living with Cribs in Kansas City, I got as low as I've been since high school. It was kind of an uncomfortable environment. Everybody was a little on edge. I have a hard time eating when I'm feeling like that. Cup of coffee, good to see you. Mayor's girl, what's happening? I will never forget how fast the huge cult of Scientology popped up in Atlanta downtown on like the most desired corners. Yep, looked like a mausoleum. You hear this a lot. It's really sad to talk to people in Clearwater, Florida. If you go down there and walk through that, you talk about a beautiful city, man. And the cult has just destroyed it. Witchy Trista, good to see you. Charlie Muffins, what's up? JD DeLay is awesome, says Witchy Trista. He's a little too intense for me in large doses sometimes, though. You know what? He's intense. He definitely is intense. I kind of dig it. I don't catch any creators in high doses. I really don't. I don't even watch clips in high doses. I don't catch it. But I watch a lot of everybody. But he really is a great content creator, and he's a guy that can. You know, I'll tell you another quick story because he doesn't like the word fan, but I am a fan of his. Dangerous Journeyman, good to see you. Tina Marie, what's happening? Here's another good one. Yesterday I'm going through and I'm looking for people talking about this, right? I'm looking to see how other content creators are handling it. To see, you know, is there any content creators out there that are sort of taking her side? And I was looking through things, and I came across this jackwagon that had just made a video about JD DeLay, calling him a rat. I don't know if you've seen this, but dude's out there like, man, and I'm going, whoa, man, this doesn't make a shred of sense, right? It doesn't. The guy's saying that because JD DeLay has tracked a guy who is a weirdo, right? Someone who likes the affections of kids and was making videos about it, like out and proud about it. Like, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to teach your kids just foul stuff. And he didn't just sort of track this cat down. He tracked him down, figured out where the guy was broadcasting from. And when he was done doing what he was doing, he turned them over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is what some moron was calling him a rat for. If you're new to this game, those people don't have rights, right? We talked about this before. That's NC status. They got nothing coming. That you can do anything. That is as honorable as anybody could do anything. If you are such a hardcore idiot that you think some code protects people that hurt children from being turned in because of some kind of honor code, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, right? You're a sick human being. Don't put that on convicts. I've never met a convict that thinks that. Don't put that on any of us. Yeah, that blew me away. Coach Lisa, good to see you. Hold on a sec. Sorry. Violet, good to see you. West Coast Fancy Nancy. Kim Roy. With Chester's legacy, she was the most awful choice. Victim harassment and Scientology denying psychiatry. Ugh. How about this? How about the fact that she is also a member of the LGBTQ community, right? LRH is pretty damn clear on the LGBTQ community, right? And I'm not, this isn't my opinion, this is his, but he doesn't think that people in that community should be able to live with the rest of us. They should either be put somewhere away from everybody else or just plain eliminated. Well, that's kind of inconvenient, isn't it? Right? And this girl's parents are apparently both in the Office of Special Affairs, or at least were at one time. That's kind of a freak out to me too, right? Looks like there had to have been some kind of, how do you get away living in that? What a horrific life. You understand what I'm saying? This is why I say I feel bad for the girl. To a point. There gets to be a point. We've talked about this many times on the lifeboat too, man. Everybody reaches that point. in addiction and everything, there's that moment where you go, yeah, this is wrong. There's that moment where you go, you know what? I'm out of control. And instead of backing up, you go, but I'm doing it anyway. It's the same principle. I promise you this. This girl knows that she's hanging in there at this point for all of the wrong reasons. Sorry. It's tough. It's hell. And I realize, I probably realize better than most who have not been there because of watching what's happening with Quibbs. When she was accidentally outed from the cult, every single person in her life was gone in one day, including family. In one day. I can't imagine, right, how frightening that would be as a concept to lose everybody that you cared about in the stroke of a second, right? That is a terrifying concept to me. And it would take a pretty sick amount of bravery to just go, yep, I'm doing that anyway. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave this. And I'm giving up every single thing that I know and believe in on earth because I think it's the right thing to do. That's a terrifying concept, right? But before you really give her too much, leeway on that, I would say that what the Jane Does did was 4 times more frightening. For real. If there's anybody that has a place to call her out, it's probably Chrissy Bixler. For real. I can tell you my opinion or whatever. Chrissy has that right. For real. And Chrissy's a hero in the real sense of the word. Like not the stupid people that wear jerseys and that kind of crap, athletes and whatever. Like she's the real deal. It's a real hero. Buddha Spirit, good to see you. Kim Roy, what's happening? Let's see. Violet L. Is that Racial 5? I'm sure Osa wrote that letter. You know what? I said the same thing. Tony Suter, good to see you. You're right on time. Don't worry about it. Carry on. How are you? Lisa Black. You know what? We'll piss off everybody that showed up late. You know how they hate roll call. Donna, all these people went, if I show up at like 25 minutes in, I won't have to hear them do roll call. Marcy, how are you? Yeah, you saw that video? Yeah, JD's a beast. JD's a beast. He's the real deal. DNV 1983, good to see you. Oh, okay. Perfect. Miss Sunrise Dawn, how are you? All public relations is not good public relation. Boy, if you didn't get a dose of that today. And again, man, if you're going to apologize for something that foul, let the world see your face when you do it. That's weak sauce. I'm sorry, man. That's weak sauce. Who is advising you? You would think, right? A band of that size has got some PR people. I'm guessing they hauled ass out the door as soon as they found out this story. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, you're putting a Scientologist in there? You might want to hire a different firm. I quit. Jennifer Folsom, good to see you. Brewsty. It's Incarnasol. It's a real thing. Yeah, Kristen Melinda. This is real. Imagine working for a PR firm and finding out that you're going to be dealing with that because this cult trashes people, right? If you follow, again, Chrissy, there was a post that she said all day they've been, she's been seeing all the private investigators going through trash, doing all that stuff. That's not a shocker. Like she knew what was going to happen. I can't make a big enough deal of the heroism that it takes. To have to just go in and face someone that did that to you, period. But knowing that there's literally an army of scumbags that don't care how much they hurt you, they're going to try to shut you up. I'm not made of it, right? And I got through federal prison, but I don't know that. Honestly, I don't know that that I could get through that. Miss Sunrise Dawn, thank you for asking. I'm okay. I am. I'm doing a little better. Mayor's Girl says, here's the problem. Contracts are signed, tour is scheduled, money on the line. What do they do? Maybe they have a second pick they could bring in. You know what? That's really an interesting question, isn't it? And I'll tell you something that I found interesting that somebody emailed me. They emailed me like this whole, looked like a depth chart on a football team. Tells you, it was all of the different players. Hold on one second. Yeah, they were showing me all of the different players involved with these record labels. And they're all in bed together, right? For real. So all the different bands, like her band and this band, are all under kind of the same management umbrella or whatever. Someone had said yesterday, it might have been Bacon Bits, Ben Turner. I think he might have been the one that said, maybe this got put together by the behind the scenes by the record labels. And why in the name of God would they do this? It's just, I can't see any reason whatsoever that this makes sense, right? I really can't. Sorry I'm late, Tax. And shame on Lincoln Park as well. And don't even look at the spelling on it. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. Killing it. You're killing it. Marcy, thank you so much for the super sticker. Scientology isn't known for their effective thinking and planning, says my son. Well, there's some truth to that. Although they're sure as hell known for going all in. If they decide they're going to try to destroy you, they don't care what they do or what they say. There have been cases where if a family doesn't break off evenly together, like if two people get, banished out of the cult, their kids are going to start filing papers that they did terrible stuff. They are literally the scum of the earth when it comes to the inability to see that family means something. I guess if you believe that everybody is just this, that's this nonstop, we're just, continuing to be recycled through to a new body every time something goes wrong. They have a very odd structure to the family. There's nothing more depressing, and I don't want to. There are stories that are in my head right now that I'd love to tell you, but they're quibses, and maybe we'll do something on cults and crims so we can talk about it. But to hear how she was treated under the age of 7 and 8. Let's give you one example, right? Dad would take off for a week. Imagine leaving a 6-year-old alone for a week and just putting a stack of cash on the table and going, you can, head down the street. There's a store there. There's a fast food there. But if you believe this is a billion-year-old being, right? Maybe that's not such a stretch. I can't imagine looking at a 6-year-old kid and saying, I'll see you in a week. You realize how jacked up this thing has to be in order to take, because nobody is born that kind of father. You have to suck the love and the nurturing and the caring out of a father or mother. That stuff doesn't walk away. That's so hardwired into us. It's like friggin' birds flying south for the winter. The fact that this cult can get parents to just go, yeah, I'm done. That Satan's on its own. Should tell you a lot about just how gnarly this brainwashing really is. 103 days, cigarette free. Our friend, Miss Sunrise Dawn, is a non-smoker. How cool is that? Seriously, it's not, at this point, you're just not a smoker. Same way with John Travolta, be Scientology and be bi. Yeah, I feel, it's a tough thing, right? Imagine being, and this isn't unique to that religion, right? There are a lot of people who are raised in religions and start realizing that they're not heterosexual and how that's going to fly in the face of the people that love them or whatever. This one, I don't know. I mean, you're not hearing those other religions saying, round them up, put them on islands, right? Drown them, do whatever you got to do. They're on the same tone scale as somebody that does something to a child for pleasure. That's messed up, man. It's messed up. I mean, if it were me, that would make me walk away. Aaron just did a live about Emily. She was in the cadet org. She knows firsthand how children are abused in that cult, says Rachel S. My understanding is that both, I think she and the sister were both in the cadet org. They're also lifers, right? Regardless of that, there's no chance of getting a pass at any level, right, for her. And I'm sorry, but there isn't. If your mom and dad are OSA, I mean, it's not like you're sort of tangentially somehow associated with the cult. Oh, you're in, right? If you weren't, they would be destroying you viciously. B. Hendricks, good to see you. Grant yourself the ability to see a brighter day. Boy, from your lips, right? To God's ears. Wait. Debbie P. Yeah, they are. And they're never going to stop messing with Chrissy, Debbie P. They're not. Not until that cult's gone. Sorry, but that's the way I look at it. And do you know why? Because she's damaged that cult more than anybody. And not just her, but the Jane Does have done more damage to that cult than I'm telling you, I remember a year ago saying this is gonna end up destroying them. This has got to be the beginning of the end, right? Because it's shining such a light. It's not just that Danny did what he did and went away. I busted that back out for the occasion. But it's not just that Danny did what he did and got put away, which is foul and reprehensible. But it brought so much light onto the cult that people that had no clue, people who just think, I mean, honestly, I've talked about it on a lot of lives. I did know Scientologists. I worked with a bunch of them in the industry that I was in. I knew a bunch of them. But we used to laugh about it. We'd say crazy Scientologists. We'd say, you could see this. They got the Scientology eyes. You know what I mean? And we would joke about it. But until somebody kind of pulls that curtain back and shows you what you're joking about, right? It's pretty friggin' frightening. It's not a laughing matter. It really isn't. It's a very hard thing to understand how, again, the humanity can get driven out of human beings. You look at the instances where a daughter says, my dad did this to me. And the only reason she said it is because he's been deemed an SP. How can you get someone to hate a family member that bad based on, well, you have to systematically take it in little bites and little bites and little bites and little bites until you've devoured their entire friggin' soul. And there are people for whom I don't think there's any coming back. Sadly, I think that's the truth. There are people in there that are lifers, and it's just the way it's going to be. Hey, ma'am, good to see you. Let's see who else we got in here. Hello, Darcy. Good to see you. Donna. That's what happens when C-suite corporate execs don't listen to the people who actually know what's what. Why the hell? Yeah, why the hell did anybody? It staggers the imagination that a band with this kind of earning power, I'm not trying to be a jerk off, right? But forget the music for just a second and think of the amount of money a tour like this generates, right? I mean, this is a business that's epic in size. This is massive. Would you not have some people who maybe threw up a trial balloon, maybe get 200 or 300 people in a room and say, hey, this woman's a Scientologist. She's about to take over the band, and see what happens with those 200, right? Or maybe 1,000. Maybe do a little market research. I just get the feeling that they did it in the dark, like a night before. When let's roll with it, because it just seems so ham-fisted. Right? It doesn't seem like anybody took any of this into account. Even if she wasn't a heckler at the Danny Masterson trials, which is, I mean, that doesn't get worse than that. But if she wasn't, she's still a member of an organization that's pretty foul, especially vis-a-vis psychiatry, mental health, mental illness, right? The fact that it exists, the fact that we need to be aware of it, and biggest of all, the stigma saying I'm mentally ill has to go away. You have to be able to say to somebody, like, I'm going through it. I'm going through a really bad time. That's not something you're ever going to get out of those people. Right? You'll hear Quibs talk about it all the time when we do shows. There's no nobility whatsoever. If you are in that cult, you can't show emotion. God help us. Right? There's the answer to the question. How do you get families to not care about kids enough that they can turn their back on them and walk away? Well, you drill emotions out of them. Tuck those in. Right? We don't see your emotions. Hey, do that over 10 or 20 years? Maybe you can. I mean, obviously you can. We're seeing it. It's terrifying. It really is. Adam Wood says, comment, I don't feel bad for her. She has gone from victim to perp. Nice. Once she backed Danny, and with such an empathetic and backhanded, unapologetic apology. Isn't that awful? I mean, you can't call it an apology. An apology is when you say to somebody, it's a mea culpa, right? Hey, I did something wrong. I didn't catch any of that. There was no point in there where she said, what I did, she did. She said, I realized, right? I realized maybe I shouldn't do that. Go to the trial. Why didn't you say the friend's name? Don't you think that's odd? The whole world knows what you're talking about. I'll tell you why. Because the people at the Office of Special Affairs said, don't you say his name. Don't you say his name. Okay, well, can I say this? No. You can't call them victims or whatever. You could say that you feel bad for victims all over the world, but you can't acknowledge that there's any victims. Ugh, some scumbags, man. I'm sorry. They're just really the lowest. Witchy Tristy says, I believe in reincarnation, but not like they do. And you know what? I have some very, very close friends, or did at one time, that were real big into believing in people that I meditated with in prison. I didn't do it as a religious thing, but they let me, I hung out to try to learn meditation from them. But they believe really strongly in it. What they talk about and what LRH talked about are two really, really different things. Really different things. Jennifer Folsom. So, Just Joan, good to see you. Paula Penley, what's happening? Kestrel, there you are. That's what I was looking for. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a great point. Look, celebrities get away with things that other people don't, right? That's admitted. But it is way different if you're a celebrity in the cult of Scientology, because in there, they're gods. They're gods. LRH, say what you will, right? The guy had a really bad grill. And I don't know, man. I never thought he was much of a speaker. I've watched, there's only about 5 or 6 different, decent interviews or whatever. But there are some lecture tapes you can look at. I never thought the guy was much of a speaker, in any way. But the guy was a visionary, and there were some things that he saw. And one of them was, if you can get to famous people, if famous people start to endorse this, you're going to catch traction. And it did. I think that, its heyday is long gone, because this bad boy, right? And the fine gentleman over at South Park started a real number on this cult, right? They really did. Aaron Smith Levin's not done him any real good. And everyone else that's kind of taken up the mantle to try to thrash this cult. And that's from, the guys with 300,000 and 400,000 people to 1 million people, for subscribers, a platform, to guys that got 300, but are getting the words out there and people are listening to them. It's good stuff, man. It's really, really good stuff. One sec. Hey, Frank Humphreys, what's happening? Olive Juice, good to see you. La Chameleon, what's up? Caroline in Canada. Happy anniversary of really getting to see you in your channel. I found you in the boat. Loved everyone and everything. I love being a part of the crew. Very cool. Very, very cool. V-Bombs, have a good night. Thank you for spending some time with us. I really appreciate it. All right, now let's get down here. I was almost caught up, people. You know how close I was? I was almost there. Hey, Lisa Kelson. Reese, yeah, she does a pretty good job of taking the highway. To be sure. A child. Okay. It feels like old times. Well, you know what? It's a trip, because in a lot of ways it does. And I'll take the time to say this too. You know why? Well, because I'm mentally ill and I don't care anymore. No, but hey, Pat Jonas. It was a year ago today that I was out in LA, and you know what? I had a really good time. I did, and I realized that there was a lot of that was somber, but there was also a real celebration that, you know what, there was going to be some justice, right? That was really going to come out, and I had a chance to meet a lot of people that I really became fairly good friends with. Alan Ballantyne was out with me. I miss Alan. I really do. I miss the guy. I got a lot of love for him. And you know what? I had a good time with Aaron. Aaron Smith Levin and I had a good time out there. That was a fun, it really was a fun celebration. It's amazing. A year is a very short period of time, and it is a long time too. She may have a good voice, but will never do Chester's songs justice, because they are full of emotion, and Scientologists do not express emotion. I think that this is a key point, and somebody sent this to me in an email. I'm very similar anyway. What they said was to sing about, songs that are highlighting tortures that go on in the mind, right? Things that all of us struggle at some level, with demons, right? With things in our minds that we struggle with. Everybody does, and again, I'm really, really new to the lyrics of this band, and fortunately, I have a tour guide that's making it easier, than having to pick through all of them. But there's some really heavy stuff in this, right? That I don't think you could sing if you don't feel, right? If this isn't something, if you think it's all BS, then you're just going to go out there and scream, and it's not going to be it's not going to be the same thing. Hey, Barbie, it's somewhat sad to me. It really is, and it's not my band, but I feel the pain for those of you that love this band. I really do. I think that would be really, it would be really hard if this was one of the bands that lit me up the way this lit up my kid. I'd be dying. I really would. She has technical ability, but the soul isn't there. You know who had, honestly, is every time when people start talking about soul, Amy Winehouse, right? When Amy Winehouse sang, she really was something. See this? I have said many times over the years, I'm feeling Linkin Park this whole week or month. I think a lot of people, I've been reading comments that have nothing to do with my channel. I've been reading comments on some of the big just music platforms, right, that are talking just about the change in the band. But the number of people who said about this band, I really struggled through this or through that or through this problem, and the band was really kind of pivotal at that point in my life to help me get through it. That comment comes up so damn often that I think a lot of people are really going to be hurt by this decision. I think that this is a slap in the face to the people that love this band because of the lyrics. They're not going to accept this. I just don't see it happening. Amy was incredible, wasn't she? That was hard because I think we all knew, we all knew it was coming, and it was just one of those things that you couldn't stop, which is terribly sad. Of course you can, Brucey. You can make just go make a Facebook page. Doesn't have to be a legit one. Just make one to get over there and start talking to people so that you can at least link up and start getting some, because you don't want to be passing info out on the big red button. Yeah, Rochelle, you're right. You could feel her pain. Megan Jeffrey says, I only like a couple of their songs. Thank goodness. Kestrel, good point. Kestrel says people feel betrayed. And you know what? That's the word I've been trying to get all day long. I swear to you, Kestrel, I've been trying to get that word in my dome all day long, because that is exactly, I don't know that that's the feeling that fans are trying to communicate. I think that's exactly what it is that there's a betrayal there. This wasn't just a, you think there are some acts out there that are fun to listen to, but they're probably not going to challenge you much with the music. You know what I mean? Basically, anything I grew up with, like the hair bands from the 80s, they may have had one ballad that, but for the most part, it was just singing about girls and fast cars and, tops down in the car. Like, it's just silly stuff. This wasn't that kind of band. And I think that if this is what you were listening to through some of those pivotal years, this is going to be the soundtrack of your life, and you're going to feel betrayed. I think that's really a perfect way of putting it. Anne from Massachusetts said Chester used his songs to express what was happening in his life. Emily can't relate because the way she was trained to be emotionally dead. She is the last person who should be trying to take Chester's role. Well, we need to put that up so that the replay crew can read that as well. And thank you to the replay crew. You guys keep the boat going. I love the replay crew. That's great. I mean, think about how that's perfectly put. You're in a cult that tells you got to hide your emotions. Now we're going to have you take over a band that's celebrated, right? Not hiding your emotions. It's a bad fit, man. Lockamillion says, I can't feel much empathy towards her, apart from her early life. As an adult, her stance is tacit approval for the evil of the cult of Scientology. Being a celeb, she isn't even at the same risk of disconnection that the others are. You make a really good point. She's already sort of reached that level of some level of stardom, so that within the cult, she's definitely getting a different kind of treatment, being treated differently. You make a good point. Debbie P says, I agree, Rachel. Plus, it needs to be a man. In my opinion, I saw them twice, and I'm in my early 50s. I listened to her sing one of Chester's songs and apparently vomited 3 times. Oh, apparently hurled a 3-pack. Oh, Ivy's mama. Well, I'm glad you found the boat a year ago too. It was that day was a trip. It really was. The biggest live feed we had up to that point, I think, was 40 people, 45 people, something like that. And I don't remember what we hit, but there were thousands and thousands of people in the live because we were the first people to come out and say he got 30 years. I had Alan Ballantyne going like this, standing behind me, like putting numbers up because he kept looking down at his phone going, oh my God. It was fun. We really had a good time out there. Justine says, come to think of it, I haven't heard an Amy Winehouse song in ages. You know what? I don't know that I have either. Helena Flock of Seagulls says, I really hope Amy has some peace now. Me too. You know, me too. That's because that's the perfect way to put it. When you looked at her, she was one of those people that you could just see that she was a tortured soul from 100 yards. You know what I mean? Even when she was performing and killing it, you could just see that she was a tortured soul, and that always hurts. Kirsten Malema says, I think a female vocalist could work, but I'm lukewarm on her. I get it. Again, that I can't weigh in on that. I just don't, you know what I mean? I'll leave that to the fans because I don't get it. But I don't know the music to be able to articulate what you guys are talking about. If it was somebody that, where I knew the artist that way, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. Comment, if she had any yes people around, they unalived a very beautiful soul. And I promise you, they had tons. She had tons of yes people around. It doesn't happen if you don't. Calhoun, can you put back up whatever I just took down? Because I didn't mean to do that. Wow, see how good he is? I would be like replacing Kurt. Yeah, I'd be like replacing Kurt Cobain of Nirvana with Courtney Love. That's a pretty, that's a pretty apt. That one makes way more sense to me. I get that one. And that would be Courtney Love. Adam Wood says, I cannot reconcile with the decision of the band. It is absolutely a betrayal to his memory. And that's the worst part of this. Hey, Frank Humphreys. You know what? It's interesting. Frank Humphrey says, is this an honest band choice or has this band turned to a money grab? I thought about this. I thought about this in depth. I don't think that these are a group of guys that are probably hurting for cash. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that this is a group of people that probably are concerned about paying their next bill. So I think when you get to that level of success in anything, you begin to start to think about your legacy. I find it interesting, but there are a couple of original band members that are sitting out this tour. Have you noticed that? Right? I think that I don't think everybody's happy with this decision. There's got to be somebody in that band that went, I'm sorry, what? Right? You do know she's one of those Scientologists, right? Yeah, she should not be singing Chester songs. Crystal Primo says, I don't think they're doing Chester's memory justice. They should just make a whole new band and not sing the old songs. However, the reason that they won't do that is because let's say they spin out a song and they call it, Emily and the Whatevers. They're probably not going to sell out stadiums. But if you go back on tour as Linkin Park, I promise you're going to sell out stadiums, right? A bunch of them, as many of them as they want. What's going to be the legacy of the music? Tainted. That's right. That's what you're looking at. Tainted music, tainted legacy. It's a bummer, man. It really is. And it's a bummer because the legacy one of the part of this band whose legacy is being trashed isn't here to say, hey, what are you doing? And I don't know this band, but from the lyrics and from the hearing his wife speak, he was wildly aware, right? This is a cat that wasn't burying his head in the sand concerning mental health. It was a subject that they spoke of often. I would imagine he's rolling over in his grave. Honestly, I just think it's a bad choice. Yeah, she could see fronting the band like acting or playing a part. Yeah, that's just foul for that kind of band. I mean, honestly, again, if you're singing 8675309, go ahead and do that. Hey, Sobs Fables, I'm well. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, it's just if you're singing some kind of bubblegum pop, great. But that isn't who this band was, man. It's just not. You're a psychic medium, and Amy Winehouse comes to me all the time. And guess what? She has told me she is at peace now, as much as one can be that is passed away. That is so awesome. I'm a fan. I really am. I really thought she was amazing. Muppet Lou says, I mentioned on Aaron's channel that the sad thing is she could use her platform to quit and speak out against the against the cult, the emptiness machine, by talking about the song. Check out the lyrics. It's uncanny. You know what? This could be an opportunity to speak out. But do you realize the leap of faith that would take? Right? That would be a leap of yeah. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. But that would have been great. It really would have, because the only good thing is that even while you debate these kind of things, the answer always comes out the same. This cult sucks. The fact that someone has to make a decision like this because if I say this wrong, my mom and dad are never going to speak to me again, right? I'm not going to be able to talk to any of the friends I have because they're going to determine and declare that my presence is one of the causes of all bad things that happen on planet Earth. That's a little heavy. That's a little heavy. It's kind of hard to come back from, man. Yeah. That is absolutely crazy. You watched a documentary about Amy Winehouse and you just want to scoop her up and hug her and tell her she is so talented and loved. It was really sad. Yeah, I would have liked to have thrown my arms around Amy Winehouse and just gave her a hug, maybe taken her out for a very large meal. They used to make a lot was made about the fact that she was always very, very thin and was always attributed to drug use or whatever. Depression for some people really puts a hurt on the ability to get hungry. It's a reality. I think that it's really sad that we find ourselves commenting on things like a struggling person's weight. And a struggling person's weight, they're dropping weight, they're doing whatever. And the first thing that someone says almost instantly is, they're on drugs. I guarantee they're on drugs. It's just kind of an ugly world. That's the first place that we go always. We've lost a lot of great ones, says Kestrel. River Phoenix was raised in the Children of God cult too. I do. And I have a friend that I've done some content with on here before that has a friend who was his best friend. And we had I had opportunity once to sit in a room and listen to some stories. And I said, oh man, would I like to do a show on this? Because there's some really weird stuff about all of that. And it was one of those odd situations where the people in the room looked at me and said, I'm begging you to not do that. And you got to be a real dirtbag, but someone should deep dive that because there's a lot of really weird stuff about all of that went down. This is a great idea right there. Everybody needs to hit that like button, people. It does actually help the boat. It really does. I want to thank all of you for all of your support. I want to thank all of you for being kind to me while I'm adjusting. Right. You guys mean the world to me. You get a lot of really beautiful comments and emails came in from everybody, and this will pass. I went to 2 therapy sessions today. I've got more on Monday. I'm doing all of the stuff required to try to pull myself back out of this. But I'm struggling really hard right now with clinical depression. Is what it is. But I very rarely get to a point where I say I don't want to do the lifeboat, because coming on this always makes me feel better every single time. It really does. And there have been a couple of times in the last week where I thought, man, I just don't want to do this. And in every case, the people around me were kind enough to go, you know, if you just hit record in 2 minutes, you're going to be really happy you did this, right? It's the same way every time. And it is absolutely a truth that, when people say you should really take some time off, this is one of my biggest coping mechanisms, right? All of you and the ability to talk to you guys and bounce stuff back and forth. This is one of the things that has kept me sober since I got out, and is more importantly than that, honestly, it kept me sane, because I struggle with that. So I appreciate all of you. I'm going to be back tomorrow at some point, although I also am road tripping with my kid tomorrow briefly. Hey, Meredith Lynn, good to see you. Shelly Kelly, how are you? So I love you guys more than words can say. And I will be seeing all of you at some point tomorrow. Spanx Calhoun, thanks for all you do, kiddo.
Hey, crew. Love you guys. Thanks for, what my dad said. You guys are the best.
We'll see you guys tomorrow. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody, huh?
Aloha.